Chances are, if you have most of your money in the bank, you're losing money. Yes, you heard right. The first time I heard that too, I was really shocked as well. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about why I stopped using my bank accounts to make money. And we're diving into it right now. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kevin. I'm actually a former pharmacist, YouTuber, and millennial personal finance guide, not guru. And on this channel, I teach young professionals how to cut out the noise, simplify investing, and make investing fun again so they can start building real passive income, automate their investments, and most of all, be that kick-ass investor that they knew they could always be. But today, we're going to be talking about something that's really important to me. We're going to be talking about bank accounts and why I actually stopped using them to make money. So recently, I actually did a one-on-one coaching call from one of my students from the Kick-Ass Investing Academy. And it turns out she had about 80% of her money in her bank account, almost at least 40 to 50 grand. And why was so much money in her bank account? She just didn't know what to invest in. Yo, deep down inside, I was dying. I wanted to commit financial seppuku, right? She thought she was making a bit of money off her bank account, so what's the harm? But in reality, when I broke it down to her, she realized she's bleeding a lot of money and she's leaving a lot of money on the table. But I couldn't blame her. It's not her fault. She was a new grad, her parents didn't really know about this, and guess what? No one really taught her about money. Hence why she was working with me. I mean, think about all the money messages that you get in your life. Here are some of mine when I was growing up. Number one, cash is king. I heard Dave Ramsey and my local drug dealer friend tell me this all the time. Second thing, you can get rich off that 1% of interest from your bank account. This was told by my high school teacher. Third thing, I watched my parents throw all their money into their bank account year after year, and they told me, hey, save more money. And believe it or not knowing any better, I thought all these things were true at some point in my life. And I used to believe these same things. Well, right until my uncle actually came up and told me the truth about all these things. If you guys don't know the story of my uncle was pretty much the savior of my life, my investing savior. He was the one that, took me aside at my cousin's birthday party when I was 11 years old. And he was like, always would repeat this one thing. Don't be like your dad. Don't throw money in the bank. And whether we were going to Chuck E. Cheese or even when I was older in college, my uncle would say the same thing year after year. And it took me a while to understand what he meant. But once you understand it, you can't unsee the past. So the reason why I want to share this with you guys, because sometimes we don't have a smart investing uncle like I did to talk about money. See, the truth is money is actually taboo. I mean, how often do we have conversations with our family or friends or even loved ones about money and how do we handle money? So today I want to open up a conversation that most people don't even talk about. The truth is cash is not king. Well, that is unless you're trying to fly under the radar and not pay your taxes. But that's another story. So in today's video, we're going to talk about a smarter way to invest your money rather than just throwing in the bank. And we'll also specifically break down why you're losing money to banks every single year, what bank accounts are really for, where to invest your money instead of the bank. And by taking these steps, you'll actually start building these assets that will help set yourself up for your financial future and have more options later in life. So let's dive into it. So why are you losing money with the bank? So let's go back to what my uncle said all those years. Don't be like your dad and don't throw your money in the bank. Why is that? I mean, on paper, it kind of makes sense. You are making a bit of interest, even though it's not a lot. The one thing that most people forget about is this concept of inflation. And it's something my dad didn't really account for as well. So you might be asking yourself, what is inflation? Well, I did a favor for you. I looked at investopedia.com, and inflation is the rate that our currency falls in value. And it's also the rate where the price of goods and services climbs up. It's also the reason why you feel whenever you go to a grocery store, you feel like things are so much more expensive than they were 10 or 20 years ago. If we take a look at old school movie theaters, we can see that in this current day, a movie theater ticket could cost you about 20 bucks, maybe 25, sometimes 30 bucks. Back in the day, they used to have things called Nickelodeons where you could go see a movie for just 5 cents. And so that shows you what happens with inflation over the years. And so that's a good example of inflation. So what's the inflation rate? Well, did you guys know that the inflation rate can go anywhere from 1 to 2%? Even some years it's gone to 4% as well. In fact, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has these numbers listed as well. And over the last 10 years, the inflation rate has been 2.01%. Okay, so now that we understand inflation, let's compare it to the interest rate of a bank account. At the current moment, most bank accounts are 0.5 to 1% of interest rate. Obviously, these fluctuate, they're variable, but the highest I've seen them was maybe 2%. So best case scenario, you're breaking even. But believe it or not, if you're using a traditional bank like Bank of America or some of these big name banks, they're actually screwing you. Most people are actually losing more money to inflation than every year by throwing their money into a bank account. If this concept is kind of hard for you to imagine, I want you to think about this. Think about a leaky bucket. Let's imagine water as your money, right? Money showers, right? The faucet is how fast you're making money, and the holes in the bucket is how much you're bleeding money or how fast you're bleeding money. So let's say you turn on your faucet, money's going in the bucket, but you have a big ass hole. Think about those holes as inflation. So you're actually losing more water in your bucket than you're actually putting in. So with this example, you're pretty much losing money. And this leads me to a very important concept. Your rate of return must be higher than the inflation rate. This is also a very important topic, especially when we're covering things like college loans and all that sort of stuff as well. While in our bucket analogy, we like to plug those holes up to prevent any leakage, the truth is, in reality, we can't do that. There's no way that we can control inflation from an individual level, right? So I wouldn't focus on that. At least I don't know how we can have control over inflation. But the only thing that we can control is how hard we turn on our faucet. We can actually increase the rate that we are making money. So it makes kind of the bleeding aspect negligible. So you might be asking, is there a better way to put your money into something smarter? You bet. Which leads me to point 2. Where should you invest your money instead? So if you're losing 2% every single year, where do you put your money? At least that's what I asked my uncle when I was like 11 years old. Okay, maybe I was a little older, but you get the point. So let's go back to a leaky bucket analogy. And remember how I said you can turn up the faucet? What this means is that we can make more money so much that the rate of return is a lot more than the inflation rate, which pretty much means we need to find an investment vehicle that will make more than 2% per year for us to even be profitable. Now, there's a few places where you can invest your money. Yes, you can start a business, you can do real estate, you can open up whatever guru courses out there, right? Whatever business model that they have. But the simplest way that I found, in my opinion, is open a Roth IRA and invest into something like the S&P 500 or even target date retirement fund as well. Then from there, you can build multiple income streams as well, which I cover in my kick-ass investing program as well. If you're new to S&P 500, it's basically investing a little bit of money into the top 500 companies. You'll see companies like Apple, Microsoft, all these other major companies that you probably heard of as well. But let's go back into the rate of return. How much does the S&P make? So from the start of the S&P 500 to 2019, which is a really long time, the annualized rate of return is about 10%. So let's say you make $10 with the S&P 500, you're losing about $2. So you make about $8 profit. Not bad. I know this is overly simplistic, but I think you get the point where I talk about, hey, the rate of return has to be higher than the inflation rate. Now, if you want to know how to invest in this, we'll talk about this a little later, but there's still one thing we got to know, and that's step 3, how to actually use a bank account. The truth is, bank accounts aren't bad. They're just really bad at making you money. So does that mean that you should close them all together? Of course not. So I use something like my checking account for whenever I get paid. And then I do automatic withdrawals for any short-term savings, credit cards, investments that I need to pay off as well. Believe it or not, I actually have 12 different savings accounts. Each one has its own goal of the account as well. I have things like vacation, wedding, and even a mistakes and emergency fund that is all allocated for that. In my personal finance bootcamp course, I actually have a breakdown of how my system works. I call it the kick-ass money flow. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link below where you can purchase it. And it's a quick 7-day bootcamp that will really help you guys out. But anyways, these are kind of the main reasons why I don't use something like a bank account anymore, at least not to make money. Again, a lot of people forget about this concept of inflation, but by investing, I'm able to get a lot more bang for my buck and actually beat out inflation. So you might be asking yourself, how do I start investing? So before starting to invest, you should probably get your personal finances in order. So I actually shot a video, which I'll leave in the cards, about my minimalistic, simplistic way to approach personal finance. I also have a paid personal finance bootcamp. It's very low cost that will help you get set up and kickstart your personal finances in just 7 days. But if you're that person and you're like, yeah, my personal finances are good, I don't really need that, great. Your next step to invest is picking your brokerage company if you don't already have one. So I shot a video a while back on where should you open your Roth IRA. I left the card here or here, wherever the screen card is. And after that video, you should probably watch my video about the basics of index funds, whether it's an ETF that you want or a mutual fund that you want. A lot of people get this wrong, so make sure you don't miss that video in the cards as well. Finally, I actually have a kick-ass investing masterclass where in just over the weekend, you can set up and automate your Roth IRA. Check that out below in the description. So thank you for watching and stay kick-ass investor. Later.